Hey, Ryan, I'm curious about how many prospects have you been able to work out individually? And then also, how difficult is it to get the agents and the players to do so when you're not picking in the top 50?
Uh, we have chosen not to work out players. I don't think it would have been a problem to do that at all, whether to go see them. We're allowed 10 workouts, 10 players. Just with the COVID health issues, just risk, we've chosen not to do that. Feel like we're in good shot, really up and down the draft board. So we haven't had any, but agents and teams have been willing to work together. I think there's been a lot of cooperation this year between agents and teams with trying to, facilitate everything we could for the most part. It's been obviously, like everything else in the world, a very unique time and lots of hurdles and things. But I think there's reports of teams working out guys, and we definitely, if we wanted to or chose to, could have. That would have been a problem.
Bob Kravitz.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, do you guys attack the draft in a different way when you're drafting 54, whatever it is, as opposed to, say, being a top 10, top 15?
Yeah, definitely not. Like, our preparation is really consistent. I think it needs to be, just because you really never know what the day will bring and where you could end up. So even there have been a couple years here where we haven't even had a pick, and we've still tried to take care of it just like we have. So even yesterday we had a call everybody, and we went through the draft, kind of in groups, lottery, first round, non-lottery, early second round, late second round, just making sure that no matter what was going to happen, that we're prepared for it, and had there wasn't any holes that were there, or the least amount of holes this year that we could have. So.
Thanks.
Uh-huh. What is that? Cubs? Is that a Cubs hat? I can't see the top of it.
Yeah, New York Islanders, buddy.
Of course.
It's hockey,
Yep.
And Kristen, do you have anything? Unmute.
There, I'm unmuted now. Yeah, Ryan, just along that line, as you look at the draft from the organization standpoint, how do you rate this draft maybe compared to other drafts that we've seen in past years?
Yeah, I would say this draft is maybe a little bit light at the very top in terms of the number of maybe franchise changing talents, but I think as you get into the depth of it, pretty run of the mill draft. I think this is going to be interesting. We're going to look back at this draft 5-10 years from now and see players that made it from all over the place. Like, this is a draft that is interesting because no pre-draft camps, no workouts. So you're really going off of the work you did during last season in terms of, most of your evaluation. So depending on what teams thought of guys, back in March, I don't know what would have happened that would really change your draft board, once games were shut down.
Olivia Ray.
Ryan, I wanted to pivot here for a second, if possible. Obviously,
Sure.
Reports of Calbert Cheney coming aboard have a lot of Hoosiers excited, and I wanted to see if we could get a comment on that and what it means to bring him home.
Well, I don't think that there's been any official announcement. I can say I've known Calbert since I was 18 years old, and he was a senior when I was a freshman at IU. I will say there's not a person in basketball that I probably think higher of than him. And if for some way he one day ends up as part of the Indiana Pacers, I would be ecstatic. He's a name that I know I've brought up here many times over the years as being a person that would make a great contribution in any way. So I don't know. Nate's working on putting his staff together, and I just know that Calvert is a heck of a guy.
Wheat Hotchkiss.
Hey, Ryan, you touched on this a little bit, but just how different has this pre-draft process been this year for the front office, and what's been the biggest challenge for you guys in terms of getting ready for the draft?
Yeah, that's a great question. Boy, I mean, you take away all pre-draft events. You know, Kevin and Chad and the team go away to the bubble. And then the draft is, going to be one date, and then it gets pushed back to another date. And then finally we get a finalized date. And just even that, then we get the draft date, but don't know exactly when free agency is. And then, we get free agency dates. So it's, it's been crazy just in terms of unknowing. And your job is to have everything that you can have, organized and known. And it's been challenging. I have to say though, it's been fun because it's been different. There's definitely a rhythm to the normal process, a way that it kind of unfolds and goes about. And it's been a lot of fun to have some of the challenges. It's not fun the cause of the challenges. That's awful, but it's fun to overcome the challenges the best we can. We're not going to have every piece of information that we normally do, but we've got as close to every piece of information as we normally do. So, our guys, our scouts have been awesome. We've studied this group of players more than any other group ever, just simply because we've been working on this group for over a year now. We started going to see these guys practice over a year ago. So it's definitely been a long process, and it's been, I have to say, and talking to agents, and we interviewed by Zoom well over 100 different players between possible Pacers and guys for Fort Wayne, and the kids, just to see, like, well, all of a sudden we're interviewing them and they're sitting in their parents' living room. It's just such a different deal than having them in a hotel room at the Combine or here at St. V's Center. And I was, to be honest, a little bit skeptical, probably showing my age in terms of how authentic those kind of interviews would be. But what I learned was that this is how these guys in this generation communicates. I had to just pay attention to my 15-year-old kids, because, they're used to talking on FaceTime. That's how they communicate with people. And the interviews actually were very good and authentic, and much better than I thought they'd be going into it. So definitely challenging. As much as we didn't know during the process, the kids didn't know. I think that was difficult for them working through it. I know everybody on our side and the prospect side are excited that Wednesday is about to happen.
Kevin Bowen.
Hey, Ryan, where would you point to some of the depth position-wise in this year's class?
Yeah, I think in the draft, I think there's a lot of point guards. I think and they're kind of really spread out throughout. I think center is a good position here. Wings, there's always a lot of wings. There's really a little bit of everything. I think what you just don't have is maybe a lot of everything at the top. So I think you have a handful of guys who are really talented, where maybe in a really strong draft you have 9 or 10 guys that you could really hope, if everything goes right, could really change a franchise. I think that's a smaller number probably in this draft, but throughout the rest of the depth of the draft, I think it's I think there's some good picks.
Scott Agnes?
Yeah, Ryan, can you take us through what you expect for draft night to be like in terms of like the war room in light of COVID? What adjustments have you had to make? What will that be like for you guys?
Yeah, so we're planning to try to make it as normal as possible using the technology that we have. So anybody that would be in the draft room will be there virtually. If not, they're just 8 or 9 of us in person, but everybody else that would normally be there will be there. It'll just be virtually. So we'll have a couple different Zooms going with different groups of people. So they're there. And, the great part of the St. V Center when we built it was we planned, this big room with all this technology. And this year it's definitely going to get put to use to its fullest. So really thankful that we've had this time to kind of vet out how to do all this stuff so we can take advantage of it on Wednesday night.
Bob Kravitz?
Hey, Ryan, what does it take to hit on a second round pick besides a little bit of luck?
Yeah, for sure some luck. I think it takes opportunity for the player where, I think where they get drafted makes a huge if you get drafted to somewhere that maybe a team takes best talent, but they already are really deep at that position, maybe that makes it a little bit harder. I think your commitment to how you feel about them and how long you're going to invest in them, especially when you get into the later second round, you typically it feels like you have a choice between a senior who's very established, what you're going to get. Their book has been written a lot more, or you're taking an absolute flyer of a kid that's super raw and, you're going to have to work with a lot. So, what's your patience for your timeline on working with that player if they are raw? So it's boy, there's so many factors that go into it once they get here. So with the addition of Fort Wayne, I think a few years ago it definitely helps us with our guys. Like we've had guys like Alizé and Edmond and different guys that we've been able to develop and have here and work with that we've gotten in the second round.
Real quick, would you say that Lance probably the ultimate second round pick that you've had, or am I forgetting somebody?
Hey, repeat that. You cut out for one second.
Yeah. Would you say that Lance was kind of the ultimate second round pick for you guys, or am I forgetting somebody?
No, he's definitely been good. I've been here long enough that AJ Price was a really good second round pick, played for us for a number of years. Lance for sure. Trying to think over time. George Niang is playing for Utah. Good minutes. He was a good second round pick. Edmond and Alizé are still on our roster, but for sure Lance was when anybody thinks of Lance always gets a lot of pub. So he was a good player. No question about that.
Tony East.
Yeah, Ryan, you just mentioned Alizé and Edmond Sumner. What can you gather? They were both recent picks, 50 or higher. What can you gather from the process that led to picking them and having them be successful with the Pacers that you can use now when you have the 54th pick in a few days?
Yeah, I think the synergy and working with the coaching staff in Fort Wayne in terms of getting those guys who aren't playing a lot of minutes with us down there to play down there, really have to take ownership and be kind of the main guys when they go down and play. And the expectation is that when they do go down there, they're going to play hard and play the right way and use it as an opportunity to get better. So I think over the years, we've definitely gotten better at using Fort Wayne, particularly once Mr. Simon bought that franchise. I think is when we really turned the corner in terms of using it more effectively, and hopefully we've gotten better with it, and hopefully just like those guys have benefited, hopefully future ones will as well.
Kevin Bowen.
Ryan, going back to Bob's question about second round picks, what are maybe the numbers you guys internally have on starters, rotational players out of round 1 versus starters, rotational players out of round 2? I know it can vary within the round, but just
Sure.
generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a rotational player, and I'm not talking about rookie year, but just even a few years down the road, if you can get a rotational player anywhere in the second round, that's definitely a hit. I think anytime you have a first round pick, you would hope that that player can be a starter. The studies say that outside of the lottery, it's really hard to get a starter even in the first round. So when you do, like what we've always said, we don't, we've been fortunate enough not to have too many high picks. But like when we've been at 10, 11, even in the teens, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to try to get somebody that we feel could be a starter one day. Just because of that, it's really difficult. So at 54, if we can find a player that, even if it's 2 or 3 years down the road, can be on our roster and contribute in a way, I mean, that would be a home run with that pick.
Scott Agus.
Hey, Ryan, how does having an entire new coaching staff change or influence what you're doing? Meaning, obviously, they're going to make it work for their system and such, but how does that impact what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think it was important. We had conversations, and even still they're ongoing with Nate about the types of players that, he likes and would, be best in a system that he plans on coaching. So obviously we want to give him players that have a chance to help him succeed and the players succeed, all of us succeed. So that's as we get to know him and hear about his preferences, it's really important. And just say, like, it's been fun in those meetings, like the energy of what he talks about and how he wants to use players and the vision he has is energizing. You guys, I've gotten to know him a little bit, but I think he's going to be a lot of fun, just to hear and see what he comes up with. He's really creative. He's definitely an out of the box thinker. So it'll be a challenge to us to, work simultaneously with him to get him the kind of players that he likes.
Anybody else have anything?
I've got another one, David. Ryan, you mentioned that, it's maybe not a top-heavy draft, but you could see guys being successful coming from all areas. Does that make it harder to value any potential trades when there could be, any number of guys who end up being good if you guys move up, move down, something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that because there's less information on maybe what the other teams think of players, it does make it harder to maybe know if you were to want to draft up to secure a player. I think it will be more challenging. And we've found in discussions with agents, it's more challenging for them to have a pinpointed range for their players. I think if nothing else this year, there's way less uncertainty in terms of where players could go. The ranges seem to be wider. So, if you're trying to target a player and move up, you probably may need to be real aggressive unless things, really shake out here in the next 48 hours and there's a lot more clarity than there is right now.
J. Michael.
Hey, Ryan, given you have a coach that's from Toronto, that came from Toronto, and they found a guy like Fred VanVleet who was undrafted. If Toronto doesn't take Pascal Siakam, who became most improved player, he would have gone undrafted probably. Terrence Davis, who was a role player. Is there anything that you guys can take from maybe what he's bringing over that helps you identify players? And is there something special? Do you look back and say, man, how did we miss out on Van Vliet or Siakam or something like that? Because I'm sure a lot of teams do that when they see hot players.
Well, yeah, I mean, not talking specifically about those two, but in general, J. Michael, we do that continuously. Just the deal with Terrence Davis, we were on the phone till 3 a.m. and the agent was going back and forth and decided to send him to Denver. So, and then Toronto picked him up. They were aggressive in summer league and got him. So, that's something that we review all the time, and we've done a lot. We've used this time as well to even look back more on that, and just to look at even the criteria that we grade players by. Is there a different or a adjusted way to grade players that would also maybe that benefit, that all of a sudden a couple of these undrafted players that have made it would have popped a little bit more. It's kind of, we're always working on whatever we think our secret sauce is, along with all the other teams are working on theirs. So Toronto's definitely had done a good job drafting. I would say that when we talk to other teams, they feel like we've done a decent job. We got to get better always as well. But yeah, just like anything, you've got to try to get better. If you're not trying to get better, then you're getting worse, and that's not just a cliche. It's something you have to do. Which means, by the way, sometimes you have to look in the mirror and say you totally screwed something up and, messed up, which is a big part of this job as well. If you just go around saying all the times that, we've succeeded, there's a number of players, a lot of players over the years I've personally had, recommended to Larry or Donnie or Kevin or Chad that, ended up not being what I thought they'd be. And, those are the ones along with the ones that you didn't think would be great that did, you got to get better at. You got to try to learn from them.
Bob?
Hey, Ryan, given the uncertainty that you were referencing before, do you suspect we'll see fewer draft day trades due to that uncertainty?
Boy, I think there could still be a lot of trades. I feel certain there probably will be, just because if there's a player that a team wants and they're unsure if they could get them where they are, that they'll have to find a way. I think draft picks will also be used as part of other deals. So I think that's just been the trend that, more and more, there have been more and more trades in the draft, and I would think that trend will continue.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything? Oh, Scott.
I got one more. Just for you personally, Ryan, I'm curious what the last 6 months have been like, where you're not on the road, where you're at home, just in a very different environment. How has that been much different than, say, your last 20 years in scouting?
Yeah, well, normally I'm gone like between 15 and 20 days a month. So to be home for, going on 8 straight months is a lot different. I will focus on the positives. I've been able to do stuff with my kids that I normally would miss. Been able to do stuff with my wife, like just go out to breakfast when stuff opened up and stuff like that normally I don't get to do as often. It's definitely been different. It's not, it's not my real life, but I've definitely enjoyed it. I don't know if my kids would say the same, because I can be a little heavy on them sometimes if they're not doing what they're supposed to. But from that standpoint, I've really enjoyed it. I think, I think it's been good for our family, but I think our family's, also ready for normalcy at least our usual normal as well.
One more quick follow-up, if I could.
Sure.
I heard you said on the sideline, guys, that you got your pilot's license.
No,
Can you
I'm
describe
working
what
on
went
it.
in? Yeah,
Yeah.
what's going into that? Why did you decide that's something you wanted to explore?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to learn to fly. My 15-year-old son had a chance to meet one of the Air Force Thunderbirds. He already wanted to be an Air Force pilot, go to the Air Force Academy before that, but he got a chance to meet one of the Air Force Thunderbirds during race weekend, and I thought that if he was going to go into that, and it's something that I had always wanted to do, that probably be smart that I knew what he was doing a little bit, and it would be something that we could do together. So I'm way more excited about it than my wife is, but I have about 15 hours so far. I'm probably about a third of the way to where I need to be to get my license. But hopefully in the next year, so I'll get that done and maybe can fly to some games to scout. I think that'd be pretty fun, pretty cool.